I swear, from we've started this history series, the stuff I have discovered is nothing short of fascinating. Some of the stuff I had vague ideas about, some of the stuff I knew quite a bit about, some of the stuff I'd never heard of at all, and this one is one I've never heard of at all. For this one, our story moves to, finally, Brazil, which is mainly known for its love of the original Beetle and the Samba bus and having them live on for years. But what was news to me is that Brazil kept making the Mk4 Golf, Ireland's favourite, all the way into the 2010s. As part of our 50 years of golf celebrations, let's look at the Brazil's continuation of the legendary Mk4 Golf. Before we get started, I should clarify before somebody jumps in the comments and says, "Oh, but they made them in China too." They made them in China as well, but we already did that with the Mark II Jedi, I'll cover it a little bit, but we want to spice things up. The Mk4. Possibly one of the most loved golfs of them all, and possibly one of the best ones ever made. We haven't talked very much about it on here sadly, but rest assured, we love them to bits. When I was a kid, this was the current Golf on the production line, so whether it was in Gran Turismo 2 or Need for Speed Underground, or even just seeing them out and about, they were the Golf of most of my life so far. After the Mark III, which many considered to be disappointing, Volkswagen took a different approach when it came to the Mk4. Make it the best that it can be. This led to the Mk4 Golf being a little bit more upmarket. Not that it was ever shite, don't get me wrong, but with Volkswagen owning Skoda and Seat now, it made more sense to differentiate them a bit. Seat was sporty, Skoda was the sensibly frugal man's choice, and the Volkswagen was to cover the mid to upmarket sector, with Audi covering the upmarket sector. With a plethora of options from engines to trims, the Mk4 was, and is, loved the world over, forming the backbone of Domino's Armada delivery drivers for years as well. There was a Mk4 Golf for every person. Need a cheap one? Base spec petrol will suit you well. Need economy and reliability? The venerable bulletproof PD TDI was the one. Performance? Well, the GTI and the R32 were hot to trot. And with the same level of comfort, high quality parts and dependability across the range, it's no wonder they've always been a fan favourite. As Nelly Furtado sang, all good things come to an end, and after beginning in October of '97, the same year as me, the Mk4 Golf as we know it came to an end in 2004. That is, as we know it. There's two countries that, alongside us, just could not get enough of the Mk4. China and Brazil. As I said, we already covered China, but here's a quick overview. It's all thanks to our friends who you may remember from the China Jetta video, FAW. They began making the Mk4 in 2003, where they actually also facelifted and renamed it the Bora, after, well, the Bora. Turns out they wanted to try and tie it in with the Bora because the Bora was selling really well. But that would end in 2009. Anyway, Brazil. So, why are we prioritizing Brazil over China here? Well, much like South Africa with Volkswagen, Brazil's history with Volkswagen is absolutely staggering. Beginning back in 1953, Volkswagen actually started in Brazil because the Brazilian government had actually banned importing cars into the country for some reason that we can only assume is political, and we don't fuck with politics on this channel because we come from a country that's been destroyed by politics and religion over the years. Yay! So, needless to say, we won't get into that. Volkswagen's loophole to this was to start building them in Brazil itself, leading to the beginning of a beautiful relationship and a second attempt at Germans taking over the world in only a few years. This one was a bit more successful. Okay, I'd love to just paint a picture of unicorns and rainbows here, but being honest, the success from Volkswagen in Brazil at the time was actually quite a double-edged sword. It was beautiful in that the people loved the products and they formed strong bonds with them, but behind closed doors things weren't really so cheery. Allegations of company spying, mass arrests, and even torture, but let's make that clear, that was not Volkswagen doing the torturing, that was the Brazilian police from what I've read. Means that Volkswagen do Brazil has a very checkered past. But you can look into that in your own time because we don't fuck with that shit here. Good vibes only. In 1961, Volkswagen became the largest producer of vehicles in Brazil and started to make some cars exclusively for their own market, which led to some of possibly the coolest Volkswagens ever made. The SP1 especially is one that always stood out to me as being extra cool. Based on the Beetle, it was a sports car for the people. Brazil is also no strangers to keeping cars going long after Germany has given up on them. With the buses and Beetles living on for years, it's no surprise that they kept the Mk4 going. And just like the other cars that we've covered in this series, they facelifted it to keep it up with the times too. Times 2? No, times 1. What the fuck? Hello, it's that bit of the video that statistically you're all gonna skip. So I'll just get it out of the way quickly, I guess. This is 427 Motorsports. We have a web store where I design t-shirts and stick them up for you guys to buy. The videos have a corresponding t-shirt. So this one, naturally, is about the Brazilian Mk4.5 Golf. And here's a picture of it here. Fucking buy one myself. Isn't that class? Anyway, yeah, we do t-shirts about obscure and cool Volkswagens and Mercedes. If you want to wear something that's a little bit different than what your average supermarket's putting out, check it out. They're all designed in-house. I'm trying to think if there's anything else actually interesting to say about them. Not really. Look, you're either interested or you're not. Let's not fuck around here. If you want to buy some t-shirts, it's coming up to Christmas time. Maybe now's the time to get... Fuck, did I just mention Christmas in fucking October? I need shot. Anyway, yeah, go to support the channel. Go and buy a t-shirt or a jumper. There'll be new ones very regularly because we keep making videos, so we keep making t-shirts. Check it out. Links here. Thanks very much for watching. Back to the video. In 2004, the Mk4 came along, and much like our South Africa story, the replacement Golf was bigger, heavier, and crucially, much more expensive. Which meant a country with such a stark division between poverty and excess, the chances of owning a brand new Mk4 Golf was very slim. Which is why Brazil invented their own halfway house in 2007, known colloquially as the Mk4.5. Fitted with either a 1.6 or a 2 litre petrol engine, the diesels were reserved for export markets, the Mk4 received a bit of a facelift to try and keep up with the times, both externally and internally. On the inside, things got a little bit Mk5-ish, with a redesigned dash, instrument cluster and overall feel. Looking at it, you'd be forgiven for thinking you were in a Mk5 if you hadn't been in one for a while. It's hard to know if this was an improvement or not because, well, the Mk4 was so highly regarded as a high point in quality. But the Mk5 was considered to be more upmarket and, if you can use the word, luxurious. I like both equally, to be honest, so it's kind of your call on this one. The outside though is where things really differed. Got a little bit weird. You'd be forgiven for thinking it was a different car altogether from the front, but the sides and back are a dead giveaway. I think the best way to describe a Mk4.5 is NPC. You know those traffic cars you would have seen in Need for Speed Most Wanted? That's the vibe it gives me here. The front has taken inspiration from the Polo of the time, the facelifted 9N. I can't remember the exact model designation, but it's the one after the one that we have had on our channel a couple times, which is abundantly clear when you look at the headlights. The back though, fuck me, where do I begin? It's kinda like the Mk5 Jetta in a way, in that they've shoved some extra light into the boot to try and dramatically change the styling. I mean, it works to dramatically change the styling, but once you see the rear 3/4 view and that iconic brake-like swoop on the side, you just know that this is actually a Mk4. For a cheap facelift though, I think it's fair to say they did a decent job of making it look different. Now usually this is the part where I would say, and then the Mk4.5 went on to become a legend in Brazil and everyone and their dog had one and people used to line the streets every time they saw one go past, but being honest, that's just not really the case. Don't get me wrong, it sold steadily for a few years and they even exported them up north to Canada and further where they were rebadged as the City Golf, which I'm told is no relation to the South African City Golfs. But the Mk4.5 is still an interesting oddball in the history of the Golf that I thought was worth sharing. This one had the least amount of information online, so I kinda had to do what I could. Sorry it's so short. I think we can all agree though that for all the weird and wonderful facelifts and different models that we've seen on this series, the Mk4.5 is probably the most convincing as being a different model. If unfortunately looking a little cheap. Well, I'm aware that was the shortest overview of all the ones that we've done, but to be honest, there really wasn't that much to actually say about it. I mean, they took a Mk4 Golf, they facelifted it, they called it the 4.5, they modernised the interior, they cheapened the look of the outside, and that's basically it. But it is one of those things that, you know what, in the 50 years of golf, there's weird and wonderful, crazy shit that I'm sure even the most devout of enthusiasts have probably never heard of. So if nothing else, we've brought attention to this weird and wonderful Mk4 Golf that... Fuck, I'm really running out of things to say about it. So, I hope you enjoyed this short overview of the Mk4.5. I've been Tom Patterson. This is 427 Motorsports. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. We are doing a video on each of the golf series, marks, whatever you want to call it. I've got a plan in my head where we're going to do a video on from 1. So we've done 1 with the City. We've done quite a few on the 2 because the 2 is my favourite. We did one on the 3 about the band editions, and now this one is on the 4. So as you can imagine, there'll be one on the 5, the 6, the 7 and the 8 before we do a grand finale a grand finale where I'm going to do a loving tribute to the Volkswagen Golf. So stick around for that one. You're going to learn some interesting shit about different generations of golf on the way. Thank you all so much for watching this far. It's been great. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah. If you want to support us, buy a t-shirt, tell your friends, do whatever. We're just happy you watched. I don't really care. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Good luck.